on a day when the market saw a great deal of choppiness. Welcome to Markets Today, the show we will tell you all the ups and downs that happened in those 6 hours of trading in 5 headlines. I'm Lata Venkatesh, with me my colleague Prashant Nair. Hi Prashant.
Lata, hi. It's an exceedingly strong market. I mean, you can say that some of the recovery, yesterday the market lost 200 points. It was up 160 today. So, that's how strongly the market came up. Some of it you could say, well, it was position squaring because of expiry, but you cannot deny that the underlying momentum has been very strong as well. We'll talk all about that in just a bit, but just to give you a quick preview of the opinion you'll hear over the next 30 minutes, Ajay Srivastava of Dimensions Corporate Consulting gets us his view on the market, the picks in the market from here out. In the big policy view, you'll have, of course, the RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das on how the economic recovery is shaping up. In corporate opinion, Deepak Shetty of JCB India and Saurabh Agarwal of Action Construction telling us about the recovery in demand in the construction equipment sector. Not just that, Ashwini Kumar Arora of LT Foods and Anil Mittal of KRBL tell us how rice exports are faring. Strong pickup there. Vijay Garg of IOL Chemicals and Ashish Patil of Aarti Drugs, along with Sujay Shetty of PwC, give us their view on the PLI scheme announced for the pharmaceutical companies. But before we get to the opinion, and there's a lot to cover, let's spend 2 minutes looking at the day itself. Lata.
Oh, well, it's quite clear that at the end of the day, the bulls turned out on tops. They are in pole position, no taking away from that. But there was a certain iffiness. Not only were there ups and downs in the market, the kind of ambience noise that we got was also not entirely going in favor of the bulls. Yes, the F&O expiry-related covering clearly helped them. And of course, the dollar was weak. But global cues, I mean, Asia was mixed, largely in the green. Europe was mixed. So there were cues of profit taking as well. And you will hear this later on in the show. The governor of the Reserve Bank did sound positive about the Q2 recovery, but had one question mark on whether it was all only festival demand related. As well, Nielsen put some doubts in our minds about demand for FMCG. So the market's texture today is that, yes, the bulls are in pole position, but the markets remain vulnerable to profit taking. And then, of course, we're going to get the second quarter GDP numbers that may also give added cues for the bulls or the bears. The point is, buy on dips, but be very careful, seems to be the message of the markets. Prashant, what are you picking up?
Metals, standout performer, Lata. 30 to 60% gains in metal stocks, depending on what you look at. And the metal index was up 4% today. So let me just tell you, I did the big pockets of gains. As I said, metals top of the list. PSU banks came back strongly. The bank Nifty itself was looking up. And the pharmaceutical pack was the other one, which was up about 1.4%. Now come to stocks. Look at the gains in JSW Steel and Tata Steel, 6% and 5%. Finance stocks from the Nifty, Bajaj Finance and HDFC Limited were doing good. Cement names, Grasim, Shree Cement, and then there were a bunch of names like Bajaj Auto, Hindalco and Adani Ports from different sectors, which will come up on your screen. Now we come to the broader market. There were losers in the Nifty as well, but smaller ones. So we'll sort of move on with the larger, broader market gains. Siemens India, 11%. ICICI Lombard had been consolidating for almost a month and a half. It saw a big 5.5% move. Sudarshan Chemicals, Steel Authority of India is making a move. Nalco is making a move. So some of these absolute laggard PSU metal names is starting to participate. Jindal Steel, of course, has done well. It continues to do well. Action Construction, SIS Limited, that's a security services company. V-Mart Retail were the other sort of big gains that we saw. Losses in the broader space in Indigo, Interglobe has seen a big move, saw a small pullback, 3%. Adani Green, Adani Gas, again, relentless move in Adani Group names, small pullbacks. Trent was down a little bit. Future Retail, Ujjivan, and something like a Newland Labs seeing a small sell-off as well. Lata.
Well, there are no two ways about that, Prashant. There were ups and downs and winners and losers today, even if the winners dominated. But no two ways about the series. It's been such a stellar November series for the market that I think we must tell you the highs and highs of this market. Nigel is here with all those key movers in the month of November. Nigel, tell us.
Well, it was a spectacular series, the November one, that is. The Nifty ended high with a gain of around 11.5%, but the underperformer of 2020, that's the Nifty Bank, that came back into play. And in fact, that's the one that led the index higher, because the Nifty Bank was up a whopping 22%. What did well? High beta. Real estate index did well. Metal index as well did do well. And auto index in there, that chipped in with a gain of closer around 12% odd. The mid cap and the small cap indices as well, they did decently. They were up anything between 9 to around 13%, so fairly good out there. But otherwise, the places to hide are the defensives, like the IT and the pharma indices. Both of them were underperformers. They eked out gains of only around 4.5 to around 5.5% or thereabouts. Which were the big gainers then on the Nifty itself? Just take a look at this. We're talking about frontline Nifty stocks, and financials and banking names did very, very well. Whether it was the Bajaj Finance twins, IndusInd Bank, they gave you returns of around 40 to around 50% odd. Throw in there the Tata Steels of the world and the global facing stocks, Tata Steel, Tata Motors, Hindalco, all of them giving you big, big returns. And also Mahindra & Mahindra has seen a big rally. Well, that continued to perform in the November series, was up nearly around 25%. What are the underperformers then? Remember, Reliance Industries, that's been the flag bearer of the bulls all through 2020. But in the November series, it took a break. And in spite of that, yet, in fact, the Nifty did end higher, telling you the kind of performance that the Nifty Bank did put in. Also, the erstwhile, the stocks to go to, or the defensive names like Asian Paints as well, were down close to around 3%, thrown there a Cipla. But from the broader markets, a lot of banking and financial names did well. You had Shriram Transport, Chola Finance, Mahindra & Mahindra Finance, all of them up between 30 to around 50%. And also SAIL did pretty well, and JSPL as well. The metal stocks did do very, very well. On the losing end, though, you had something like a Pidilite that was under pressure. Muthoot Finance as well, after the big run that you had, did come in for profit booking, as was the case with Dabur as well as Lupin. But to sum things up, a 10% gain in a single series. Wow, what a move for the Nifty, backed up by the Nifty Bank.
I mean, wow is the correct sort of expression, Nigel. Thanks very much for that. It's been stellar. Well, now in market opinion, Ajay Srivastava at Dimensional and Scotland Consulting says that many retail investors are booking profits. He also gives us his top sectoral bets. Listen in.
By and large, I'm seeing now a lot of retail selling out, gradually booking profits, coming back to the table and saying, is it time to kind of book some profits on the table? So I am seeing a very clear diversion now happening, that our local investors are now trying to say, let's in cash. But I think the big move has been the economy has got so much more capital. And Indian promoters, for the first time, are not greedy. They're selling equity. They're selling their companies. I think it's one of the healthiest year, in terms of corporate, the unhealthiest year for health, but healthiest for corporates. So much capital in the company's balance sheets is good for the future. There is no reason not to buy a stock like PVR. It's ace, it's gold, absolutely. It's a gold standard in companies in terms of governance, in terms of product, in terms of positioning, competitive positioning. But whether you're going to buy it now or wait for a while till markets settle, I would think you'll wait. December is going to be disaster. One big theme is the agrochemicals, where there are very good quality companies, as I said, for disclosure purposes, like Bayer Corp, for instance, or a Rallis. UPL was a good company, but it's highly indebted. And it had the snaffus with this Mauritius. I'm not sure what transpired or what's happened there. But after that fiasco, it's very rare for companies to go back once a governance question comes on them.
Okay, yes, these are eternal values and standards for picking stocks that Ajay is putting on the table. To the second headline now. Siemens stock soared over 11% after its fourth quarter numbers beat street estimates. Agam Vakil is here with the details of those results. Agam.
Well, we were expecting a weak quarter, but the numbers were well ahead of expectations. So we have seen a decline of 9% in terms of its revenues on a year-on-year basis. A surprising operational performance considering a 180 basis points improvement in its EBITDA margins. Consequently, net profit fell only 1.3% at 330 crores year-on-year. The reason why we have seen, relative strength in the earnings is because its larger segment, energy, smart infra, as well as digital industries, did much better than what the street was working with. And more importantly, they have seen an expansion of 300 basis points in their gross margins. Their other expenses have also fallen, even as the company saw, move through the unlock. And that's the reason why we are looking at strength as far as the earnings are concerned. Also the reason why the stock is advancing today.
Okay, that's Siemens in focus. Agam, thanks very much. Moving on, construction companies have further endorsed the recovery theme. We spoke with Deepak Shetty, CEO and Managing Director at JCB India, and Saurabh Agarwal, whole-time Director at Action Construction Equipment. Both companies said that they have seen an uptick in demand. Listen in.
We have around 160,000 machines with the JCB Live Link, where these machines communicate to us. So we started seeing the machines being used particularly in the rural areas. So we started connecting very closely with the customers. Obviously, because JCB supports machines which work on the defense side, on the essential services side, we were continuously working to support our customers. The digital technology came to our rescue, which was absolutely very positive. But in the month of June onwards, we started seeing the green shoots, particularly in the rural areas. I think the whole investment on the road side, for the road projects, the expressway projects, a lot of investments, as I said, on the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. I think the whole emphasis on reducing the time between the farm to the market, I think that is creating the whole infrastructure. And as I said, a lot of projects connected to Manrega, which activities again taking place on the rural side, very, very positive. A lot of tunneling work taking place across the country.
I think the demand scenario post-September, including September, has been fantastic. August was a recovery month, and where I would say that things were similar to last year August. Then September onwards, it's actually gone ahead on a year-on-year basis. And if we practically talk of infra projects, yes, definitely June, July, August, there was a slowdown because of monsoons and migrant labors and all that. But of late, I think they are going full blast. And as a matter of fact, last 2 months, we've been suffering on account of deliveries. We're not able to cope up with the order flow.
Okay. Well, that was a positive set of comments we got from construction equipment companies. We go to the third headline from the street today. Tomorrow is the last day for submitting applications for the production-linked incentive scheme for pharma companies. And the response we understood from participants could have been lukewarm. Industry honchos told CNBC TV-18 that it's tough to take on China with its lower pricing and better technology. They added that high regulatory requirements and land prices in India make it difficult to set up new units. Let's listen to what they had to say.
Major thrust is on fermentation-based product, and we are not into fermentation-based product. Our product pipeline is existing pipeline is of altogether different product, whereas the intermediates and the APIs which are selected in the PLI are majorly on the different segment.
Government seems very open. We are participating in the scheme. I cannot disclose how many molecules as of now. And in fact, government is also coming up with a chemical intermediate PLI scheme, which also looks interesting. Obviously, there are few caveats which needs to be addressed, but then we are hopeful that government will take the industry response very positively.
We actually are seeing good interest on the PLI scheme. But there are two overarching concerns that if I had to simplify the two big buckets. So the first big bucket, the concerns are from the promoters and investors. How well are my investments protected? What can I do to get a rate of return on investment? And some of this, is playing out. The second big bucket, Lata, is around the operational headaches, which still need to be sorted out.
All right, from pharma to a smaller segment in the market, which is rice companies. There are a bunch of them listed. We spoke to rice companies today. Stocks were higher in trade. The companies told CNBC TV-18 that the first half of FY21 has been excellent, with exports doubling. Companies expect the strong demand to continue. We spoke with LT Foods and KRBL managements. Listen in to snippets of those conversations.
The bigger growth we have seen is in the non-basmati rice. Last year, in the first 7 months, it has grown more than 100%. And that is only because of, the India is sitting on a good stock position, good crop and competitive price that has given us, to the India, the growth in the African and the Asian market. And the other is basmati. Basmati has also grown by around 30% in the first 7 months.
There has been a fantastic demand post-COVID, and the numbers in basmati rice are quite impressive. This year, in the first H1, that is April to September, India exported around 2.4 million tons of rice, as valued around 15,900 crores. There are only 10 parties which are registered with the Chinese government as a processors to export rice, and KRBL is one of them.
Okay, so that was a lot of good news. Rice exports doing very well, construction equipment doing well. On that optimistic note, we'll take a break. We're coming back with lots more stories from the street.